Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we're thrilled to be talking to one of our favorites, and in fact, one of our best leading actress winners, Miss Andra Day, who is the star of the upcoming Search film, Is This Thing On? We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the AAFCA members on the call today, starting with Michael Sowell in Washington, D.C., Derek Dunn in Washington, D.C., Brandon Collins in New York, New York, Sam Leggett in Washington, D.C., Carolyn Hines in Toronto, Canada, Jasmine Stevens in Tampa, Florida, Jill Monroe in Los Angeles, Karan Lenoir Kelly in Charlottesville, Virginia, and one of our new members, Morgan, in my dad's hometown, the Crescent City of New Orleans. I'm gonna let you guys do what you do so well, and I'll see you on the other side.
What is the problem?
I don't know, it's complicated.
You don't have to tell me that.
I guess we just slowly grew away from each other.
You two have always been very different.
And you and Dad are twins?
Your father is an immigrant to this country.
I know that.
And I've always been a woman who wants the taste of the exotic.
Jesus, Mom.
Why are you doing stand-up?
Yeah.
Getting a divorce.
You cheated.
No.
You didn't cheat and you getting a divorce? Oh, that's some white guy shit.
I've been doing stand-up. Is it like a hobby? Well, I'm not about to quit my job and go on tour. It's just it's something I look forward to.
Hey, listen, do you mind if I drop them off here for a couple hours?
Don't ambush me like this in front of the boys. You suck.
You suck.
Give it up for me, I'm doing great. I'm paying rent on a shitty apartment and mortgage for a house that I don't even live in anymore.
So I'm the only one who doesn't know about this?
I have goals this year I want to achieve. Do you have goals, Dad?
Oh, of course I do.
You knew I was struggling. You left me alone.
I left you alone? You checked out? I was unhappy in our marriage. I wasn't unhappy with our marriage. Man, I wish I had a punchline.
What I like about you is you're so innocent. You're not naive, you're innocent.
You are good. I mean, you're bad at stand-up, but you're good. You have a good heart.
Hi, I'm Michael Sowell from Washington, D.C., from Sowell Media. This film touches on the idea that comedy can reveal deeper truths about who you are and how you can evolve. How did you explore that theme through your character, especially moments where humor becomes a form of honesty and vulnerability?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, and you're absolutely correct. I love that he sort of finds this medium, through which he's able to tell his truth, and I think he's revealing his truth to himself ultimately. This is the first time he's been able to be truthful, it feels like, in a very long time. But I loved it because I think we all feel that way, that the best comics are the smartest and most honest people, and it's like, you're kind of you're sacrificing yourself constantly and telling your truth, telling your deepest vulnerabilities, because there's something so humorous about that relatability, that thing that we've all experienced. I feel like that's what social media is made of a bunch of memes of stuff that we've all felt, but we never actually say it. And with my character, I think what makes her funny is just how candid and how honest she is. And I think sometimes humor is this, it's like a comfort blanket, it's a soothing way for us to actually tell the truth. But I think she's hilarious to the audience because she is a very honest person, but she's not just honest with the people in her life, she's honest with herself. And I think that's actually what makes her funny, is that, when she's sitting across from a good friend who she's been quite, adversarial with the entire course of the movie, she can sit there and just honestly say to him, "Oh, I hate you because you remind me of me and I hate myself." Just drop the mic, and that's, so. But I think people like that are incredibly valuable. You need friends and people in your life who are willing to be honest first with themselves and then as candid and brutally honest with you. So I found that to be funny. And to be honest, I found that to be helpful in my own life. I don't think I'm as, forward as Christine is. And so she was a little bit of therapy for me. And because it was done through humor, it felt like something humor makes things, difficult subjects, more approachable, if that makes sense,
Well, thank you, and great performance in this film.
Thank you so much, friend. Great question. Thank you.
Andra. Carolyn for Carolyn Toss YouTube and podcast channel. Thank you
I
so much
remember
for
you, girl. I was Carolyn's tech last time. We had to get her sound together.
It was a mess. It was a mess. Something that I think is really interesting about this film and about stand-up comedy in general is how similar it is to actually singing and singing on stage. In that, like I grew up in the church, so I grew up singing in church. I was in choirs, and for you as a singer, I wanted to ask you about how performing on stage and getting up in front of an audience, people you don't know, you have the blinding lights, and there's a vulnerability that you have to do to let yourself just go in the moment, either as a comic or as a singer. You know, yeah. Sometimes we sing a song and we don't think we're going to get emotional until we're actually singing it. Yeah. And then you just break down in the middle of the song and you're just tearing your heart out. And for Will's character, he's doing the same thing. He has no idea what he's going to do when he gets on the stage till he actually starts talking and revealing everything that he was keeping bottled up. So I wanted to ask you, like, how is that for you as a performer, both as an actress, as a singer, and observing how the comic process, the stand-up comic process works, mirroring the whole bearing the soul process in the midst of actually entertaining people?
Yeah, that's actually really great. That's a great question because I've gotten asked as we've done this press run, they're like, would you ever do stand-up comedy? I'm like, hell no. Like, that's terrifying, you know what I mean? But then I guess for some people, it's like, even if they can sing, the idea of getting up and singing in front of an audience is like the most terrifying thing, you know? So it's interesting. I think the similarities are what you said. You know, you have to be willing to be vulnerable, which at the end of the day, to say that in layman's terms, is you have to be willing to look stupid. You have to be willing. I hate to use the term fail because I think that they're really just stepping stones to get to where you need to be, but you have to be willing to fall on your face. You have to accept the fact initially that some people will relate to what you're saying, or no one will relate to what you're saying or to what you're singing. Some people may like it, some people won't. It is such a risk. You know, every single time you go up there, it's such a risk. And so I liken it to, you know, it's just like when we feel like we're in danger and we have those fight or flight, I guess it's fight, flight, or freeze senses. It's the same thing every time you're going up there to sing or to do stand-up comedy. You have to make a decision in a split second that I'm either going to press through this and it's going to either go terrible or great or meh, you know what I mean? And so it's really that, to me, it's that split second decision. Once you're in it, you know? And so, and it's about being very open and being very present in the moment. And, you know, if you feel like something's working or it's not working, the ability to pivot is very similar to me on set. And that was one of the things that I learned through working with Lee, through working with Bradley, through working with, it's not been that many directors. All right, so 3 of them. But, you know, I think that they're always seeking the truth. And so that's the similar thing. That's the DNA, that's the spirit. They are constantly seeking the truth. So when you're in a scene, what you're looking for isn't to memorize your lines the best or to deliver them exactly the way the directions give to you. It's to find the truth. And it's the same thing when we're on stage singing, same thing when we're, you know, doing stand-up comedy. You're always seeking the truth and you have to be willing to pivot, you know, but that requires a fight mentality, I think, when you're in the space, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. And yeah, there's free people also have a fight, flight, or I'm always like, there's freeze. The option is always.
They just added freeze recently. I'm like, y'all, hold on. I just caught up with the fight or the flight.
Thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Jill Monroe, KBLA Talk 1580. So Christine is in a relationship with Walls. Their relationship is the one that is working through. Sort of in this unique group of friends. So as you were building character and putting her together, what characteristics of her stood out to you, being that it's also a part of a friend group and each relationship kind of represents phases of relationships that we go through?
Yeah, well, first of all, that's great. You touched on one of the big themes of the movie for all of us. For Bradley, you know, in particular, was just like this idea of friend groups. You know, there's so much of ourselves that we define through the people that we associate with, through our relationships, through our friend groups. And so, you know, when you have this schism, or you have this huge sort of upending in this group, which is that we're getting a divorce, who do you team up with? So I think what I love about Christine is, like, you know, And what I love about this friend group is like they don't really, they pick a side, but they don't really know how to pick a side because they've all been friends for so long. What I loved about Christine so much, again, like I said, is really her honesty. But I think what's interesting is that when you watch her in the beginning, she can seem, again, like I said, very adversarial with Will's character. It's like, this is my friend Tess, and I'm picking her, but she's not. She's just expressing her disappointment. What I love is that her honesty or her criticism really comes through her great love and admiration for her friends. And that's what you see at that very last scene when they're having the conversation. What she's actually saying to Will's character is that I admire you so much. You know what I mean? And I love like who you were, and like I see myself in you. And you also see her as this kind of matriarch of this group, you know, that she's cooking for them. She's like, you know, she enjoys entertaining. She enjoys carving out these moments for herself and for her friends and for herself as well too. She definitely gonna smoke her weed and have her own good time. But I just love that she seems to, at this point in her life, although she has reached this crossroads where she's questioning, like, who am I? What am I passionate about? Because I've lived my life supporting my husband's dream, and now I'm empty nesters, you know, like, and Bradley and I talked a lot about the fact that, you know, they're also at this crossroads in their life. And so she's doing a lot of things. She's questioning who she is, what she's passionate about. She's prioritizing herself in this moment. And then she's still loving on her friend group and being honest with her friends. And I think those were the things that when Bradley first spoke to me about this character, I was like, oh, I really love that about her, and trying to figure out how they were attracted to each other. And I think these were the elements that they found attractive in each other. But those were the things that I love most about her character.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jill.
Sammy Leggett with JVS Media Productions. Hey, how you doing, Andra?
Hey, good to see you.
You as well. So Bradley is such a great director for a couple different reasons. I think more than anybody else, he trusts his cast fully, but he also is very committed to where in the direction that he wants us to go. And much like Christine and Ball's relationship versus the contrast of the others, I know this is also based on an actual comedian, John Bishop. Do you know if Christine was based on anybody that was circled around John Bishop's friend group, or was this specifically supposed to be, you know, this is another couple that's built on codependency and comfort versus likability and love and trying to figure out that indifference? How did Bradley and Will develop it? Was it based on someone, or was it more so this is what we're going to tell the story for this couple specifically?
Well, I think loosely, but Christine is, you know, she's sort of Christine and Balls and their relationship is an amalgamation of people in John Bishop's life, who is the comedian, and his wife that this story is based off of, and their friend group as well. And then also people, Bradley and how he sees himself in certain ways, Will and how he sees himself in certain ways, their own friend groups, people that they've known. So she's really an amalgamation of just familiar friend groups. You know what I mean? Her and Ball's character, and just familiar figures within friend groups, and what that looks like. And so, you know, when he was putting this together, it was really, that was the main thing. He really wanted to touch on the theme of, like, you know, not afraid. Like, what I love about this movie most is that it's not I keep using the word adversarial, but that's what I love about it, is that it's still really loving, and it's still a really touching film about people who are just growing and changing. And so he really wanted to touch on, what does that look like in a marriage? And then in addition to that, what does that look like in a friend group, when not only are your friends changing, but you're now changing within this marriage? You know, yeah, you've been this great father and you've been this great mother, but the things that I was really attracted to, or the things he was really attracted to, might be the things that drive us nuts now. You know what I mean? So it's like, he just wanted to touch on, like, just this thing that happens when we grow and we transform, and we need to rediscover ourselves. And we need to give ourselves and each other the grace to go on that journey. Like, it doesn't always have to be this huge blow up where there's a bad guy and there's like a villain character. It's like, sometimes you just hit this weird crossroads and you don't really know what to do. And so I like that they're processing that through the lens of hope, because I think we need a lot of that right now. I love that they touched on the theme of grace, because it's a very real story and a very grounded story, but it's still sweet without being sappy and kind of generic. And so, because sometimes things just change internally and your circumstances change and you don't know why. And if we take the time to communicate and figure it out, then we may find our way back to each other. And I like that that's what it touches on. And that's what John Bishop's story actually is. So it was amazing.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so natural and raw, and your performance was great in it. Thank you
Well,
for talking
and
about it.
him, as a director, he was also operating. First of all, Bradley wears every hat. Okay. I'm like, there is no, like, his level of talent and his work ethic are the same. So he's directing while operating the camera. So most of what you see is him shooting it while acting in the movie. And that's why it feels very intimate and grounded, because it's from an internal, you have like an insider's perspective of what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate you.
Hello, Andra. I'm Karan Lenoir Kelly from Karanism.com and Love Music Pleasure. And I talk a lot about love, music, and pleasure.
Period.
In the arts, especially in entertainment. But the reason I really embraced this film was because it talked about love and how it can evolve in midlife.
Yes.
We don't often see ourselves at advanced age being able to tell our love stories and how our love can evolve over time. And I love the fact that the main two characters could not come back together until they found something new for themselves that was just for them. So I want to ask you, when was the last time you discovered something new for yourself? And how do you feel about rediscovering love?
That is such a great question because I think I'm in the midst of it right now. I mean, listen, if I'm being honest, the last thing I can think of, the last huge pivot in my life was just even transitioning into acting. You know what I mean? If we're just speaking about like career and music, and now balancing these new, to be honest with you, both of these are great loves for me. I love music, and I'm realizing how much I really love acting and love creating movies. And so that was definitely a huge pivot, but also I feel like I'm in the midst of that, not necessarily in love or in a relationship, but I think I'm at a place in my life. I am in midlife, I guess recently just hit midlife. I just turned 40. And so I think that, and that's a part of what I loved about this movie, is this idea that like they're hitting a moment in their lives where they're changing, and we have this weird idea about life. When you hear people tell you, like, if you make it and you do all the things, like, make sure you don't change. And I'm like, that's an insane thing to say to a human being, because like, it's like a death sentence. You know what I mean? This idea that you're supposed to be the same person now as you were 5 years ago, or as you were 10 years ago, means you're not growing. And that's stagnation. And that's crazy. So what I love about the movie is it wakes you up to realize, like, even in marriage, even as a parent, even your kids, we have to allow ourselves and other people around us the grace to transform. And what I love most about her character is she kind of met me where I am in my life. I'm not married and I don't have kids, but I find myself in a new relationship and a new understanding of myself, even in my relationship with God. Like, I'm like, wait, things that have worked for me or things that, I'm used to are not working anymore. So I am relearning how to love myself and how to give myself grace, and freedom to transform and to change at this point in my life. So it's really nice to have a character in Christine and a story in Is This Thing On, and in the message that Bradley wanted to process that through. Like, it was a really nice vehicle, if that makes sense. So I'm just actually learning to be in love with myself. Okay. Nobody else, just me.
I love that too. And I'm
Me and
here
the
to
Lord.
tell you, love is juicier the older you get.
I love
Trust.
it. Yes, my goodness. I was like, I didn't know I could be romantic with myself. This is crazy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate that.
Hi, Brandon Collins from Media and Popcorn Podcast.
Hey, Brandon.
Given Bradley Cooper and Will Arnett's comedy background, as well as the use of stand-up comedians, I was curious, was there a lot of improvisation on set, or was it kind of stick to the script? And if there was improvising, like, how did you feel about that? Like, what's that experience like?
To be honest with you, Bradley really welcomes it when he's on set. Like, somebody had mentioned earlier, he very, very much trusts his actors and their instrument and the work. He's a work ethic person. And I think all of us on set are. It's like, you want to come to set as prepared as you can be, and then some. And then you kind of have to let it go and let what happens in the space. But what I will say is a lot of it was the script. A lot of the work that we did was the script. We sort of did some tweaking, while we were on set, and a little bit of improv in the moment. But generally speaking, it was the script. We maybe planned some improv. Like, there was a scene where I sing Amazing Grace, and that was not in the script at all. But that was just Bradley improving by himself in the middle of the night and then calling me. But, obviously there's a theme about grace throughout the movie. And so we keep talking about like, if you hit it once, okay, cool. If you hit it twice, cool. But if you hit it 3, 4 times and you continue to tap on the theme, then it becomes a theme and it's funny. You know what I mean? So the fact that they kept speaking about grace in these terms, and then they wake up the next morning and Christine is singing, Amazing Grace in the kitchen. But that was just a phone call from Bradley the night before. He was like, what do you think about singing Amazing Grace? I was like, yeah, bro, it sounds great. It's like, we had built up this culture of trust and understanding the rhythm with Bradley. But a lot of it, like I said, was the script. Once I saw the edit and we were kind of, down to, they were finishing the movie. But sometimes we would ad lib and improv just to find our way to the truth that was in the script, if that makes sense, So surprisingly, though he welcomes a lot of improv and whatever's in the moment, surprisingly, it was a lot of the script that was there.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you.
Hello, Jasmine Stevens from Was It Good Though podcast. What steps did you take to embody Christine, a woman trying to keep her husband grounded when around their friends while also managing her own emotions?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, first of all, just to speak in like, I guess, nerdy, like terms of like process and, just really reading the script, having multiple like lengthy conversations with my director, who is also a writer, and him walking through with me the true story of John Bishop and their life and their kids and their friend group. Understanding my role within my friend group here, but also, because I'm not married and because I don't have kids, really relying on people like my mother. A lot of what you see is like a version. It's actually this kind of combination of my mother and my father, because my mother's like, this matriarch. She is who she is. She is my dad's the more expressive, like, yeah, I don't like that shirt. No, this is a bad idea. No, you messed up. No, you know what I mean? So, and just what that's like, trying to raise kids and trying to somehow maintain some semblance of identity, or not even realizing that you're losing your identity. But I pulled a lot from my mother, and then in conversations with Bradley about, his folks, my folks, the background of these people's story, because one of the things we posited was that, ooh, child, they're getting somebody. Who ran? So, and we talked about how their background is different, right? Christine comes from a much more like kind of rigid background, more of a religious background, whereas like, Ball's family is like, these documentary filmmakers, and you know what I mean? That's why there's this place in Oyster Bay. And so, and then just understanding me, like, to be honest with you, the difficulty was like, oh, in order to play Christine, I had to accept things about myself, which is that like, we wish that we gracefully waltz into 40 and we're like, we're so confident, we're so self-confident, and I don't even worry about getting older and da-da-da. And I had to be really honest with myself and be like, no, I think I had a bit of a mental breakdown, actually. Not truly, but, but really actually saying, how do I really feel about this? And going sort of much more deeply internal with these things. But as much research as possible, being with family, understanding my aunt has a son who is left off to college, and how that really feels to sit with yourself and figure out who you are. And my mother is in her second life now. She's writing children's books and she's gardening, and so like understanding how she sort of got to these places. So
thank you
so much.
Hello, my name is Morgan. I'm with Scenes in Color.
Hi, Morgan. Congratulations.
Thank you. So
I feel like I'm a part of AAFCA. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
it's great.
Because I be critiquing films at my house. You know what I mean?
I'm really excited and appreciative. So when we first meet your character, Christine, she's really interesting, and I feel like she kind of shifts the dynamic in the way that we see Tess and Alex now that they're with their peer group or with their friends. And I think she's one of those friends that, she'll be real honest to you, straight to your face, straightforward, but she does not make you really feel judged, or she doesn't really make you feel bad about that honesty. So what was it like for you just to play a very direct and also just super chill character? And were there parts of Christine that personally resonated with you?
Yeah, well, first of all, so that's a really, really great question. And also, I
Thank
just
you.
love like how we see her, like versus other places that I'd be in, how they see. I was like, yeah, we get it.
Right.
But yeah, so no, what it was like playing someone like Christine was really liberating for me because I think that like while I will challenge myself to do that and to be direct with people, I feel like I am much more of a recovering people pleaser. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to rock the boat. I make them upset and to make them, you know, and she sort of helped me to just like realize, you know, like, listen, at the end of the day, sometimes you will make people upset, you know, with the truth. But I think the reason we love her truth and she's able to do that without making people feel judged is because her intention isn't to make you feel judged. You know what I mean? Like some people, you know, somebody just walks up to you and be like, that shirt's ugly, that hair's ugly. It's like there's nothing productive in that. You know what I mean?
Right. It comes from a place, I think, for her of love.
Of genuine love and genuine admiration for her friends. These are her family members. You know, these people have been friends for 20 plus years. They've been in each other's lives. Her friends' kids are her nephews, and her kids are her friends' nephews. And so, and I think that her and Tess's relationship I adore because, you know, there's something that Christine says to her, and that one was actually a little more improvised. That line is when, you know, Christine says to Tess, she was like, I don't give a fuck about volleyball. Like, you are what is amazing. You know what I mean? And I think that is what's incredible is that she looks at Tess as like, you can conquer anything, like volleyball, this family, you know, whatever it is that you want to do, coaching. But you need to get out of your own way, you know, and we need to hear those messages sometimes. So I think the reason we're able to love her honesty and not look at her as an antagonizer is because she is rooted in love and she is rooted in admiration. And like I said, people who can only be honest with other people and not honest with themselves are just judgmental. You know what I'm saying? But when she can examine her own self and basically be like, I'm living vicariously through you, friend, because I ain't got it together. You know what I mean? Like, then it's, you know, then I think it just makes her so much more, she's admirable because for a lot of us, it's really difficult to be that honest with other people, let alone ourselves. You know what I mean? So I think that's the self-honesty is something that I relate to with Christine. That's a huge thing for me. I was just telling a friend actually, like, for me, you guys, you know, I'm a believer. So I'm like, for me, there's a scripture that talks about examine your own heart or look at the plank in your own eye before you judge the speck of dust in your brother's. And that's a really important one for me because I feel like we have a lot of finger pointers, but where her and I diverge and where I admire her and took on the role so I could be more like her is how candid she can be with other people in her life and just accept whatever those consequences may be, but doing it from a place of love. There was a lot of elements I loved about that.
Thank you so much.
And thank you.
How's it going? Derek Dunn of Views and Dunn.
Hi, Derek.
So one of my favorite things in the film, in addition to your performance, was the Peyton Manning cameo that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So while you didn't share a scene with Mr. Manning, did you get a chance to interact with him at all?
No, I was so mad. Bro, I thank you for bringing that up because I would really like to air out my grievances now while we're with this group. No, they let me know before that he was actually cast as the coach that was you know, pursuing Tess's character. But then I get to set one day and they're like, oh my God, weren't those scenes with Peyton, you know, so great. I was like, what scenes with Peyton? They're like, yeah, we filmed it last night or we filmed it the other day. I was so mad. I have met him once before, so I was able to give him his flowers and tell him, because he's absolutely one of my favorite QBs of all time. Because like, hello, I have common sense. But I didn't get to meet him while we were on set. But I did see like some of the outtakes and some of the things. And I thought he was so great, you know, a testament obviously to him coming prepared and his work ethic, but also just Bradley as a director. You know, this is someone who absolutely prioritizes truth. And so I feel like he's one of those directors. I say this about Lee, like, is one of those directors that can pull an incredibly convincing performance out of anybody. You know what I mean? And so, but you know, from what I heard, Peyton came and he really did his work and he did his due diligence. And so it was just great to see him. But my song was playing in the background when he was on camera, and I really liked that.
Thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Hi, Michael again.
Hey, Michael.
This film uses humor as a lens to look at healing, accountability, and transformation. What message do you hope audiences take away about the real power of comedy and helping people evolve?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there is just the message of the film, right? I love that they showed the world of comedy, first of all, and how the world of comedy has evolved itself, right? To become this really tight-knit, supportive community when it was not like that, years ago. And I like that Bradley and Will touched on the fact that, comedy was actually much more of a dog eat dog world, like a lot of our industries were, but they, just realized that like being a community and growing together is how you, do well and how you succeed. But also, I think multiple things, right, that I want people to understand. First of all, with comedy, just the idea that I think there's a lot of things in life that we take far too seriously. You know what I mean? And then there's things in life that we don't take serious enough. But I feel like use comedy more as a vessel to get to truth, because I think that we should be laughing through some of these very, very difficult subjects, because I truly believe, and the science backs it up, that joy and that comedy and that laughter are actually healing things for the body. They produce, hormones that actually heal the body. And so processing truth through comedy was something that I held on to when doing this movie. And the other aspect of it is communication, processing things with laughter and with communication and grace. All of the things go together, because it's like if you give people the grace to process what it is they're going through, then it makes people comfortable enough to communicate those things and makes you comfortable enough to accept these new discoveries about yourself, which leads to my last point, which is the huge one for me. And I said it before, but transformation is so big. Transformation is so, so big. We're so worried, I believe, about the wrong thing, about being the same person all the time. And I just don't think that's truthful. We work in a creative space. So that alone means we are 10 different people at the same time. I don't know if y'all feel like I do, but I'm on that. I'm hitting that far end ADHD spectrum. You know what I mean? So there's so many ideas and there's so many. And I think that we can get so preoccupied with just trying to survive and just trying to get by and be the same person and be who we are and be that we don't allow our minds and our bodies and our circumstances to say, hey, we're changing. And we're going to change you along with this process. So I think to give, again, each other and ourselves the grace to transform and to be transformed by life, because that's what life does, is a huge theme that I took away from in this movie.
Thank you. And I can't wait to see you at the Laugh Factory, starting your stand-up
Oh my
career.
God, here, y'all trying to set me up. I'm not funny. I just have a goofy laugh. Thank you, friend.
Andra, before I ask you about, bearing yourself as a performer on stage, whether as a singer, as a comedian, and something that I love asking actresses in particular about is about fashion and the clothing and the costume design, because I love clothing, yes. I love shoes, I love bags. And I love how costume designers work with actresses and directors to figure out what their character looks like and who their character is through their clothing. And something that I think is interesting about Christine is when we're introduced to her at their house, like she's wearing this long kind of like caftan that's like in dark colors, and her hair is like pressed. I was going to say relaxed, but it's not relaxed. It's more like pressed, flat iron, so it's straight.
Natural pressed, yeah.
Natural press.
Natural silk press.
Came through that silk press, and then, but as the scene, as through the scenes that we see her, it's like her hair changes from the straight to her curly to her not to your natural texture, and they come at very particular types of scenes, and like there's kind of like those moments of like she's bearing her soul, so her hair is more in like the curlier state, and at the end of the film, she's wearing, when she goes to Will's character, she's wearing this red like caftan again, she kind of goes on the stairs and she tells him the truth. And then the next morning she's wearing like red silk pajamas, and like the scene is bright, and she's happy and she's singing and humming and she's preparing breakfast, and like they're all sitting down and finally being honest with each other. So I wanted to ask you about finding Christine through the costume designs and the clothing, because I kind of see like the beginning of the film, a lot of the scenes are dark and the characters are wearing like dark clothing and like clothing with more heavier fabric and tones, where at the end they're way more lighter colored fabric and lighter colored clothes, and your character, she's in this light silk pajamas, so she feels happy, like a weight has been lifted off of her. So talk about finding Christine that way.
That is such a great question because that was one of the earliest conversations. Originally, when we had the script, even with Tess and with Will's character, you see there was almost this shifting that was going to happen. Like, Bradley and like, Will and Laura, like as we went on this process, he kind of changed how he wanted to, because originally it was almost going to be that it was sort of like Will and that Alex and Tess re-find each other, whereas Balls and Christine actually end up coming apart. So it's almost like Christine and Balls end up in similar colors at the end that Tess and Alex were in the beginning. Now, obviously, like, I love a testament to Bradley is that he wanted to end it on a positive note. He was like, no, I want these couples to refine each other and refine their friend group. But the colors were huge and the fashion was huge. And so I'm so glad that you picked up on that. I don't think anyone's asked that question. But it was finding Christine through the fashion was huge. One of the things I discussed with costume design on set was that, Christine doesn't necessarily come from some of the worlds that, Tess might come from, or actually that Balls comes from. And so, like, in certain ways, Christine is almost more put on. Like, it is very important to her, very imperative to her, the way she presents herself, the way that she speaks, what she wears. And that comes from her upbringing, that comes from her parents. And so, which speaks also to what she may have been more attracted to in Balls, which is that he kind of just goes for whatever, and so I think she's sort of like can find herself living vicariously through these people in that spirit. But she is much more controlled. She is much more, I don't know if calculating is the right word, but she is, or considerate when it comes to her aesthetic. So one of the things we decided and I loved is that we picked, would you do me a favor? Can you find the name of the designer for that galley? Sorry, because I want you to have this. And so we thought that, Christine's one of those people who like she picks a designer she loves. She wears that one designer. It suits her, you know what I mean? And it makes it feel like it's special. And so the caftan that she's wearing is the same as, a lot of the clothes that you see her wearing throughout the film. It's this one Japanese designer that we focused on. And, we just thought that, and as you see her go throughout the movie and you see her have this moment where she's on the sofa and she's really unloading on Alex, and expressing to him, why she feels how she feels about him. And that's because of how she feels herself. But you really needed that moment of that sort of, I want to say unhinged, but as unhinged as Christine can be, still very much in control and very aware of herself. But it is this moment where she's able to sort of unleash and breathe and say what it is that she's feeling. And then again, you see her the next morning and she's singing and she's cooking and, and I think you wouldn't really be able to understand her without these two particular scenes. I don't even know if she'd truly be relatable without these two particular scenes, because you see in those scenes the root and the heart and what motivates her. No, that's the stylist. It was I'm going to find the name of the Japanese designer, but
the actual clothes.
yes,
Sorry,
yeah. But this came through, thank you, friend. But but yes, so the fashion was a part of that, the colors in the movie, how you see the saturation of color throughout the movie was all a part of that process. And they were all early conversations and very early conversations. But speaking with you and hearing you speak about it, it's nice to know that some of that stuff still translated as you watch the film, but yeah, it was very intentional for sure.
So we've talked a bit about Bradley as a director. He's also your main scene partner throughout this. So what is it like working with someone as a director that is also your co-star? And did that bring about any changes or differences as far as, that's probably not the best word, but as far as connecting and putting your chemistry together and from your performance?
Well, first of all, it's a great question. And it's a really honest question. I mean, like, obviously, with regard to time, it would present more challenges, right? Because he has to be like my scene partner. But he has to make sure that his leads in the movie in particular, they get their story together. And so he's directing. He is also acting in the film. He's also operating the camera and is doing the editing and, and as well as doing the writing. So, time wise, but again, I think that where maybe I guess there would be some issues with time, it really wasn't, because he is such a stickler for preparedness, you know what I mean? And which is, again, for me, is like music to my ears, because it's like you really want to come to set with every single possible option, with every single mountain of this character, having been climbed, every single site excavated of this character. And so we really went into this movie fully prepared for whatever was to come. But there was more than anything, it actually provided, I think maybe if he was only the director and not operating the camera, that'd be different. But because he was actually in the scenes with us operating the camera, it actually made it so much more intimate and so much more immediate, because there's no wall of communication. It's like whatever he's feeling and whatever we're feeling in the moment, we can communicate it to him right there. He can, there's actually so many moments we laughed because he's like directing us through a scene and he's like, yes, and now, and then you go faster, you go fast. Like he had to scrub so much of his voice out of out of the edit because he's just like talking through the whole scene. But I think what made it so amazing is that that's why, as a viewer, because the camera is not just in the scene with us, it's a character in the scene with us. You really feel like, oh, I'm in the house with Alex and his parents and the chaos of the dogs, and I'm in the house with, in the apartment with Balls and with Christine when the milk spills and everybody's cleaning up. And so it was really interesting. It actually took a wall away and made everything much more of a living organism, because that real time, right in the moment. And because as a camera operator, he is also one of the best actors in Hollywood. He usually gets to the instincts that you have at least a step before you get there. You know what I mean? So when you're thinking something, he's already kind of altered the way he's shooting it so he can pick up that feeling. So it was really actually an incredible experience that I definitely want to repeat again, for sure.
Amazing. Thank you
so much.
My follow-up question is about artistry in general. The biggest thing about Alex is that he uses this as his therapy, right? But when you think of like comedians or musicians or painters, right? If I go and take Exhibiting Forgiveness, which you were amazing in that one, with Andre's character Terrell, a part of his soul and his trauma was tied into his painting. And with Alex, it's the same exact thing. And I want you to kind of talk upon that as an artist yourself, like what that really naturally looks like. It can go push or pull, but it's also a very pivotal part about also who you're supposed to be. So I wanted you to talk on that.
Yeah, no, I think that, it's so funny because I have this understanding that not everybody is like an artist, but also everybody is an artist. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? It's just whatever your art actually is, or whatever your form of expression is. So the idea that I just think that we are inherently, again, faith perspective, but I think that as coming from a creator, right, we are inherently creators. You know what I mean? So, and I think that that is inextricably linked to who we are as people. So what I love about the film is watching, I don't know that, and it's not even that Alex's character had a conscious conversation. I need to discover what my passion is. I love that he accidentally found himself in this medium, or rather, I'll put it this way, that this medium found him, right? Because let's be honest. And one of the things I feel like we don't talk about enough is how abnormal it is to decide to, like, if somebody told you have to pay a $15 cover, or you can do it for free, but you need to go on stage in front of a group of strangers and do an entire stand-up comedy set. Like, I'm out $15. Hell, ain't no way I'm getting on stage. Like, what do you mean? I'm going home. I'm leaving the club. Like, it is not a normal train of thought to go, okay, I'll just do a set. You know what I mean? Like, that's actually insane to think of. So I love it because it's really that his medium found him. You know what I'm saying? And kind of like, but I love that he's finding it later in his life without, not consciously. He's just now kind of doing whatever feels like it is in the moment. And I think those are the steps, that very in the moment, very present. I'm going to listen to whatever this is in this moment and just say yes to this thing that scares me. I think that's how we end up finding our art form. Now, when we do find our art form, these things, we need these things as humans. Like, whatever your art is, again, even if it's technology, or your art is, writing, you know what I'm saying, or doing, or being a movie critic, whatever your art is, whatever your passion is, I don't think that you can really process other aspects of life without having this outlet. You know what I mean? I think that is what our purpose is tied to. So, and I think that's what I loved about Christine's character, is she's figuring out, like, wait a minute, what's my thing? You know what I mean? What is the thing that I love the most? What am I most passionate about? And so I think that, to me, again, like I said, though we don't all have the label of artists, I think that every person is an artist, every person is a creator. And once you know what that thing is in that season, because it can change, I think those things are are integral to like our health and how we actually perceive and move through the world. And in order for us to be whole, healthy people and process our social interactions, I think it's integral to that. I hope did that answer your question?
No,
Okay,
it absolutely
okay.
did. That was amazing. Thank you so
You guys,
much.
I'm a verbal processor, so I'm like, I know I did a lot of chatting, but did this come like full circle?
No, you did. You did. Thank you.
Thank you, Brand.
Andra, we have something in common, a very interesting connection. Kenyatta Hardison, who is
Okay,
the choir
yes.
director at Cardinal Sheehan, she and I were stage partners growing up.
Oh.
And we came up in theater together. And you mentioned not meeting Peyton Manning, but hearing your song was playing during one of the scenes. So
Yes.
I want to know what's it like to see and hear your work in the world.
Wow, that's a really, really good question. Wow. Well, first of all, what I will say is for that scene, it was a complete surprise. I had no idea that my song was going to be in that scene. So that was just like when I saw the movie, I was like, I think Bradley Cooper might actually be just one of the nicest people ever. When I saw that, I literally called him and I was like, you're too nice. What's wrong with you? Literally to the point, you guys, even when I watched the movie back and they listed off the credits and it was like, Will Arnett, Laura Dern, Andrew Day, and Bradley Cooper. I literally called him and I said, switch our names, sir. It is, I was like, put yours where he's like, no, you're great. That's where it belongs. Like, so it was just, he's a super sweet person for even doing that. And he was so, so supportive of Billie Holiday and like the last two movies I had done. So I think that to hear your music in the world, I mean, it's like to see the world processing your music, I think is like, I don't think that's lost on me yet. I feel like that still gets me every time. Like I see covers all the time of different music or even now with the acting, I just met somebody the other day who is a professor at, she's a professor of film. I forget where, and they talked about how they use, when they do talk about acting and now they use Billie Holiday or something as like a, to understand the process of acting or how to. So those things are like, I mean, I think someone asked me a long time ago, like, when will you feel like you've made it? And I'm like, I feel like I'll made it when I hear people like covering the music, you know what I mean? Listening into the songs and like processing it. But then with certain projects you do, they become so much deeper. And people will say, oh, I use this to process, depression, or, I was struggling with my cancer diagnosis and now I'm. So I think for me, what it was just like, oh, wow, I've made it. This is gratifying. What it's become is like, you can actually impact people who have a greater impact. It's like the pebble in the water effect, So it's really been about that. It reminds me constantly that like, whatever it is that you produce or you're a part of, or really can have impact, can do good for people. And so like to pay attention to those things, and it doesn't have to always look good. It just needs to be truthful. And I think that can be really healing for people.
Thank you so much. I'm born and raised in Baltimore, so you bring an interesting light
I love it.
to
I love Baltimore
through your art and your music. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, family.
Andra, thank you for.
Thank you so much. Oh, wait, guys. Shiro Sakai. That's the Japanese designer. There you go. Sorry, Gil.
No. Thank you for another great performance, and thank you for a wonderful roundtable.
Thank you, Fred. You guys, thank you so much. And such great questions. It was so good to talk to y'all always.
They were saving the best for us.
I love it.
On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, thank you for watching this edition of AAFCA Roundtables. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Soror.
Thank you, guys. I love y'all. It makes me so. And congratulations, Morgan. She a new family member.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.